Hello, my name is Bill, and today we are going to make a chowder to warm you up on these cold nights. My sister used to make this when we lived in Denver. She wasn't a great cook and didn't understand cream soups. I worked in a restaurant where I made a lot of cream soups from scratch. The thing is that your chowders are thinner. They're not supposed to be as thick as cream soups. This is actually a corn chowder. It's kind of a New England thing. It's great. You'll really enjoy it when we get it all finished up here. I used to make this all the time on the weekend so I could have a dish during the week for a bowl. You know, the thing about any kind of soup is it's always really great as leftovers. In fact, sometimes it's better as leftovers. So let's get started on this. In this pot I have about 1.5 pounds of little red potatoes that I've diced up in some salted water. There's 4 cups of water, and I've cooked them for 20 minutes. The smaller potatoes, 20. You know, obviously if you're making gravy or potato salad where you may have larger chunks, you want to go for the 25 minutes, but this will be fine, 20 minutes. Here I've cooked 1/4 pound of bacon till crisp, and I've drained off the grease. Now that we've got it rolling back here again, I'm going to add here, I have a whole yellow onion. You want a sweeter onion, and I have a red pepper. You can use green, I prefer red. Let me get this in here. Look at this. I also want to add, I've got about 4 carrots and 4 stalks of celery that I've chopped up. Just want to kind of get this to soften up and get some flavor to it. Lots of foods we want to just put on the burner long enough in a frying pan, so essentially what it's doing is it's just releasing some of the flavor and it mixes together. Like I said, we're not really trying to cook it. We're going to get it a little soft, but it doesn't have to be cooked to death. Let this get happy here for a minute. All these colors will be real pretty when we get the chowder done. So looking back here, the importance is you've got to know about how much water you have in, because that's going to tell you how much roux you need. So even if it's a little more water than you really need, I always go with the 4 cups, because that makes all the numbers work out on this recipe. I can start to smell the celery and the carrots now. And as long as you cook the bacon till it's really crisp, it's not going to soften up at this stage of the game. It is going to soften up some in the chowder, but that's okay. Most of the fat is cooked out. Some people use pork belly, which is really the same thing, or any kind of pork that's been cured. Just make sure you cut it up small enough that it really does crisp all the way through. And okay, believe it or not, things getting a little soft here. What I want to do is we're going to incorporate this into our potatoes that have cooked completely. Let's turn this down so I don't singe myself. Just want to get this in the pot. Try not to splash yourself. Gently move it in. Like I say, don't worry about getting everything cooked, because it is going to simmer in here for the duration. That's good. Just gonna mix all this in. It's really thick right now, but By the time we add the roux and the rest of the half and half will be fine. Yeah, this is perfect. Of course, as I made it, it'll be perfect. Alright, set that aside. So we're going to go back to our pan over here. Now what I need to do is I need to prepare the roux. This is just like any other roux I've made. So I've got 2 tablespoons of butter. That started. Just want to melt the butter. I usually have the butter out a little ahead of time so that it's not freezer cold. I keep refrigerator cold. I keep my refrigerator really cold, so it melts a little faster and evenly. We're not trying to burn it, but you don't want to burn it. So depending on what we're making, really decides our ratio. You know, I've said before that like when you make gravy, you want to weigh your butter and your flour so you get a more even incorporation and quantity. But for most of this, it really depends on how much liquid you're going to end up with. Okay. So once again, I got 2 tablespoons of butter. It's just about there. And so I've got 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Put it in there. Just want to start mixing this around. So this is where you need to be a little patient. You want to get all the lumps of the flour mixed out or smoothed out, because when you start adding your liquid, all those lumps are just going to stay and ruin your soup or your gravy or anything you're making. It's nice that we're using the same pan we cooked all the veggies in, so one less pot to clean. Alright, so I got my butter and flour all nice and smooth. So I have half a cup of half and half. I need to start a little bit of time. Just a hair. So once we get this roux stabilized with this half a cup, it should be okay. And once again, you just want to make sure you keep it smooth, and we want to keep the lumps out. So in the end, we're going to have a total of 2 cups of half and half in here. So what I've done is I've taken 2 measuring cups. I have this with a half a cup so I don't forget, and another measuring cup with a cup and a half. Which means if you just find out maybe you put a little too much flour in here, you can always steal from the other one, but you still want a total of 2 cups. And people tend to, like myself, if I just had it all in one, I'd probably start pouring too much in here, and it's not going to be right. You're going to thin the roux too much. Thinning down now. We just passed that stage where It's not absorbing the liquid as quickly, so it should be okay. We're going to end up with a consistency like Play-Doh. Thinner. And I'm thinking this is a case where my pan might have been a little too hot, so it's a little thicker than I want. I'm going to toss in, I've got my heat turned down because I know my roux is already cooked, so I'm just going to toss in just a hair of half and half. And now, there we go. Like I said, you just have to eyeball it. Yeah. You want a good solid paste. Okay. Now, in the meantime, my broth over here is still at a pretty good boil. Don't see any funny lumps of flour. So now what I need to do is I'm going to take some of this. I want to stir it in to my broth. And if we did everything right, it should break down pretty quick, which it is. And we just want to keep everything nice and toasty warm. And it will incorporate. So I've got this. What I'm looking for is I want the stock to turn white and just start to thicken. Do this in about thirds or quarters, will be fine. And if you see the temperature starts to drop and it's not simmering anymore, just wait a second, it'll get back there. No need to turn up the heat, you don't want to scorch on the bottom. Okay. You can start to see now that it's turning white. This pot's kind of heavy, so I can't really turn it towards you, but you'll see in the end. Okay. Put the rest of it in here. It just stopped simmering a little bit. It's just kind of slowed down, so I'm going to count to 10 while I get this together. Back to simmering, so I'm incorporating it all back in here. And now there's definitely a change in the consistency. This is a good New England chowder now. So, next step is we need to get that rest of half and half in here. That's good. Now you got all the colors of the rainbow. So, you can do this in about 4 to 5 shots of, you don't want to dump it all in real quick. Now it's going to get really light. You know, you get kind of that yellowish from the flour. It's going to come back to white again. Still simmering. Everything's staying at a good consistency. Everything smells really good. And really, once you get this all done, you have two options. You can serve it right away, or you can leave it on the stove a little bit. This is one of those things that you could do a little before dinner. Just kind of let it simmer on here on low heat, and it'll all kind of meld together. Bacon still staying crispy, so we did a good job on that. Still simmering. Alright, simmering, smells great. So, I'm going to throw a bay leaf in here, a little flavor. Before you serve it, you can pick it out or you can leave it in, it doesn't matter. If you're going to reheat this a few times, I'd probably take the bay leaf out after the first serving so it doesn't get real strong in there. Alright, I've got a couple dashes of paprika. It's kind of for color, but I use smoked paprika. I just think it's kind of fun to add that flavor because you've taken all the grease out of the bacon, so the bacon isn't going to be as strong and a smoky flavor. That just really makes it taste great. And I got some fresh ground black pepper in here. Stir that together. Instantly I can smell the smokiness from that paprika. My sister actually got me started on it. I hadn't ever used it before, but I just think that once you use it, at first you think it's kind of strong, but it mellows out really quickly, and it just adds something, especially when you're using bacon. So I got my soup, it's still simmering here. So really the only thing left after I make sure everything's mixed together. And like I said, at this point, it's essentially ready to serve. It's not going to really change consistency a whole lot because we're not really boiling it. We're just a little simmer to it. In fact, you want to make sure it's simmering as light as possible so that you don't start sticking on the bottom, because it is a cream soup. It would be detrimental to it. Just long enough I know now that all the paprika and peppers integrated in here. Splash it. I want to get to taste it. And last but not least, I have half a bag of frozen corn. I'm just going to put in here. I just had this poured out just long enough so it's thawing. You can actually, if you really like corn, you can put a whole bag of frozen corn in. Alright, so at this point, I can turn off the heat and consider it ready to serve. Once again, this is really something easy. I mean, this is all occurred. The hardest part was probably cutting everything up. The potatoes are done in 20 minutes. The corn's not going to chill it down because the chowder is so hot. You just want to make sure the corn heats through because frozen vegetables are already cooked. And literally, this is a great soup. Show you. And I got a big pot of soup here for all this work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bowl. Put my soup in here. So you can see the consistency of this beautiful chowder. It's not quite a cream soup, but I bet you this is absolutely delicious. It's perfect. I get the smokiness from the paprika and the bacon, get all the flavors of the vegetables. And this is exactly why I think that a red pepper is better than a green pepper, because sometimes green pepper can be a little pungent. This is that easy. So it's absolutely ready to serve. I'm sure you will enjoy this, and cold weather is going to be with us for a while. Enjoy and have a great day.